Young People Services, support, facilities and feedback.
First question that's coming is, how do you make sure young people supported living is a safe and stable place to grow and move on? I think that's to whoever wants to take that.
Thank you. I'll take that. That's okay, Deborah. So for me, it's the reason that we exist as Sanctuary Supported Living. It's as simple as that. That's why we exist, and that's our DNA. And we're really proud to support thousands of young adults with our on-site, quite often 24/7 project worker and key worker provision. And we exist to help that young person to thrive and, literally to be their absolute best today and in the future. Earlier this year, just before Christmas, we launched our new homely standard, which launching earlier this year. So we're probably 3 months into that. It creates a standard for me where every young person can feel valued, respected, and can be proud to call that location their home, not a house. And that's my test as a dad, if you like, today, or an uncle, or a mum or a dad. Would I be happy for my son to live in that environment today? Would they thrive, both in the physical environment, but also, most important to me, the people around them that we call project workers and key workers? But we also need to recognise that some of our young people that we meet have had adverse, really, really complex earlier experiences that have had quite a detrimental effect on them, and sometimes that's reflected in their behaviours today. But it's our role, alongside many of our partners that we choose to work to celebrate the positive behaviours, and also while helping every young person to really understand and manage any previous trauma, conflict, or behaviours that can affect other people in our community. So I suppose, in addition to our local teams who are brilliant, our local managers, we also have a really strong compliance and audit structure to make sure that every service that Sarah mentioned, in excess of 750 services across the country, meet our standards. And of course, we then welcome in local authorities, the Care Quality Commission, and of course Ofsted, who oversee the quality and compliance of the services that we're really proud of as well.
And I think I'd just like to add to that, really, Dave, is that the quality of our staff and the understanding and the connection that they have with kind of the people that come into our services, that allow them to then talk about, this is my home, and be proud of that. That's the point where we win. That's how we celebrate. And we need to do much more of that in terms of being able to be proud and equipping our staff for all the great things that they can do and everything they can achieve together with our residents and our colleagues, that we can just be the best we possibly can be, and strive to be the best we can possibly be.
My first question today is an audio question which has been submitted by one of our young people in another of our foyers.
I'm 22 and I want to move on with my life, get a job, save money and live on my own. But living here makes it hard to do that. If I work more or try to become more independent, I lose support and end up worse off. It just feels like I can't win. What is Sanctuary doing to give young people a simple, clear way to independence without risking losing our home or support?
Wow, that's an incredible question. So thank you very much for that one. It's a concern for the whole sector as we navigate kind of the challenges that austerity has brought, local authority funding challenges. But the question isn't about that. The question is about, what can we in Sanctuary do? And our role in Sanctuary Supported Living is absolutely to facilitate that smooth transition. When somebody is ready to move on, the last 3 months of that period where before they move on with us is absolutely focused on supporting them through that transition process. How do we help them with benefits? How do we help them maintain tenancies? How do we set them up to achieve, not survive, achieve what they want to do and where they want to be? And when somebody moves on, regardless of funding, that relationship doesn't stop. We will always be there to support a younger person, be able to achieve what they want to, move on with their lives. We sometimes become the backstop, and people need a safety net. And relationships that get built when somebody's living in a supported living services become that safety net for them. We create relationships, professional relationships, that mean we will always be there for somebody. But it is a sector challenge, and it's one that through our work with the National Care Forum, we are talking to government about how do we facilitate something that's easier, simpler, and the government start to take some ownership in terms of some of the challenges in terms of where people can fall through those safety nets. So what does Sanctuary do? We really focus in the last 3 months. What does Sanctuary do? We're trying to work with the government to ensure that we can find an overall solution that means that that challenge becomes less of a one for the individual that's going through it. Dave, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
I think Dylan, and I know I've known you for many, many years, Dylan. So I know your experience and journey of living in one of our foyers from many, many years ago when we were younger. But I think there's recognition that we all have bumps in the road in our lives, and we should have. That's absolutely normal. Some people need that support around them, regardless of where they live today, whether it's supported living or in a housing environment. Our role as a supported housing provider is to be there in the event that that bump needs a little bit of support around them. And that doesn't create a codependency. But I honestly believe that when someone leaves one of our supported living services, they should be able to proudly come back to say hello, to celebrate their achievements, that they've moved on into wonderful activities in the future. But if they need that conversation, we should always be there for that in the future as well, people.
Right.
Thank you. I've got another question directly from a young resident. Yeah.
Hi Dave, my name is Renato. I've been living in Earl's house now for 2 years and a half nearly. I've been sharing my flat, my kitchen and my toilet for all the time I've been living here. I was just wondering what will be the plan for the future to change that?
So thank you, Renato, for that question. So I know where Renato lives. Lives in the northwest, in the northeast, sorry, in one of our specialist Ofsted registered services, and he's absolutely right. Some of our services and portfolio today does include shared environments, shared bathrooms sometimes, and shared kitchen environments. And I would say honestly, there are some pros and cons to some of those living environments. First of all, for some of our relatively short stay supported accommodation, particularly homeless accommodation, the benefits of shared living, and particularly shared catering and shared kitchens, means that we can bring people together who may have been slightly isolated in their previous environments and create that feeling of camaraderie and collective support. I think that's really, really helpful. And that's the feedback that we take from many, many customers. But would I want to share a bathroom today? Honestly, is the answer no. But I did when I was a student many years ago. And I think the reality is that we will always have a diverse array of different accommodation offers, ranging from shared accommodation with massive communal space or fun space, if you like, through to dedicated purpose-built one-bed apartments and two-bed apartments to meet the needs of the people in front of us today. The reality is much of the long-term move on accommodation away from supported accommodation is into shared accommodation in many parts of the country today, in both private rented and the social sector. So our commitment is to make sure that we would want to invest in our self-contained accommodation. Last year we spent just over £7 million, for instance, to remodel and move some schemes from shared accommodation and bathrooms to self-contained studio apartments, so that someone has that dignity to call their bathroom their own. But I would draw caution to create an empire of self-contained one-bed apartments. I think there is a risk of loneliness and there is a risk of isolation, and some of our best work happens when customers are together and supporting each other as well in that communal space.
And I think that's probably a really balanced answer to that question. There is so much positivity in allowing people to support each other and create those connections, and those shared spaces absolutely do that. But yeah, the point about en suites and a different type of accommodation is also completely valid and fair.
Great, thank you.
Right, I have a question which has been submitted from a resident asking, I've raised the same issues several times, but it doesn't feel like anything changes. How will you make sure that residents like me are really listened to and their feedback leads to real action? So over to the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for raising that question. It can be very irritating and annoying having to retell your story multiple times. I think we've all been there and we experienced that. It's really important that we hear this in terms of kind of ensuring that we've got resident engagement, part of today as well. But what are we actually doing about that? Because we've heard that before. So we are investing in a new system, a customer experience, CX, you'll hear us call it for short. What that allows us to do is when you phone in to Sanctuary, everybody has one version of the truth. Everybody has a holistic view of you as the customer. We can see what you phoned in before about. Have you raised a repair? What was the repair? We can see where that repair is. We can give you updates. That's kind of coming, and that's not going to happen tomorrow, but it is hopefully kind of towards the back end of this year, 2026. So that covers the kind of, so you've called into us, we'll know who you are and we'll know your full history. So you won't have to retell the story to us at that point. But what happens on a local level? Well, we've invested in our CQC and our Ofsted services in a piece of software called Nourish. Nourish allows, again, on a local level, that one version of the truth, that holistic view of our customers, so that you don't have to tell the story over and over again. Everything is documented, and whoever is talking to you has access to Nourish and therefore is informed about you, what we may have spoken about before, and can help support you with the things that you need help and support with. But and keeping on with that theme of a local level, we need to make sure that everybody does get involved, because actually true customer feedback is gold dust, because our customers know the problems that we've got, and actually if you tell us, that's how we get an opportunity to fix it. So please get involved. We've got the resident engagement panel. If you'd like to know how to get involved, please contact us. We've got lots of information that we can share. Experts by experience. If you've got a particular passion and particular knowledge, get involved. It's a chance for you to help Sanctuary, and we'll talk about co-production later on, I'm sure, in a bit more detail. We've got communities of interest. So actually, if you want to be involved in one particular thing, we might have a community of interest, which means you can come help us with that and then move on, because that's your passion. That's the thing that you think you can really add value to us. And please think about applying to some of our customer engagement panels. We've got Dylan and Deborah here. They're a great advocate for those panels, and we can kind of they can share their experiences about what's happened and the things that they've helped shape and change. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved, But the things that we have heard about having to tell your story over again, it's why we've launched our CX program and why we've already in services launched Nourish. Dave, I'm going to hand over. Is there anything else you'd want to pick up on that one that I may have glossed over? Oh, Dave, you're on mute. Somebody had to do it on this call.
It's always the technology, and yet the doorbell's not gone yet for Amazon to come and pick up a parcel from downstairs. If I could major on our experts by experience for a minute, I'm really proud of that piece of work that's led by residents and residents advisory and scrutiny panel that helps engage customers to give us their time for free. They go around the country for me and they inspect and audit and take a view, an eyes wide open view on our services, and they give me personally feedback around how they would feel if they were recommending that service again to their loved ones, their friends and family, because they are experts by experience. So to see a customer who is an expert in homelessness or young people living care or mental health, supported living, take a view on a different service that they've never been to before for the first time, it's incredibly valuable feedback. And we've learned so much in the last few years because of that. And that team of inspectors, last year, they chose to really focus on our young people leaving care services, as well as our retirement communities. And we took feedback from that allowed us to reshape the way we work and approach lots of our different activities, not least repairs and maintenance in those homes as well. That's a plug for anybody who would be interested in joining the Experts by Experience panel as well.
Before I bring the next question, I've done several of those Experts by Experience, and I can highly recommend. It's a great way for, residents are indeed experts on how it is to live in such schemes. So